Center. We will be recording, so just to let everyone know, and then I will pass it on to Kai.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Kai. My pronouns are they, them. I'm going to be the chat monitor here today. So yeah, just message me in the chat if you have any questions or want to reach out. I'm posting more stuff right now just for your guys' information, but I'm excited to be here.
And then we'll hand it off to our amazing presenter. Go ahead.
Thank you, Karina. Thank you, Kai. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jorge Juarez Lopez. My personal pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am a mental health intern at Radiant Health Centers. I identified as a transgender, and I run groups for the youth. We're gonna start a group for the youth next Tuesday at 4 o'clock. I'll give you more details at the end of the presentation. And I also run some groups for the transgender community for the older population. And I provide individual and family therapy at Radiant Health Centers. Before I go ahead with my presentation, I would like to get to know my audience, and if you can please put on the chat if you are an attendee, or if you are a professional, if you're a teacher, a parent, so then I know who my audience is.
Can we have Natalie introduce themselves real quick?
Sure.
Hi, hello. I'm Natalie. My pronouns are she and her, and I am assigned to this workshop as the counselor. I'll be here just in case anybody needs any mental health support. You can message me privately in the chat if you would like.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing them to introduce yourself. Back to you.
Sure, thank you. I'm just checking the chat to see what kind of audience we have today. Cool, thank you everyone, and welcome again. I'll get started with my presentation. Today, the main topic is mental health preparedness for transgender youth. And so some of the workshop objectives are gonna be to create awareness regarding challenges, areas of institutionalized discrimination, and physical and mental health disparities. Utilize clinical and social implications that could affect the transgender population, and utilize strategies to support health and wellness that can be implemented. Some of the key terms during this presentation, I would like to get you started with some key terms for this presentation. So gender refers to the attitudes and feelings and behaviors that a given culture associates a person's biological sex. Gender normative, it's a behavior that is compatible with some cultural expectations. And gender non-conforming are behaviors that are viewed as incompatible with some cultural expectations. More key terms, gender identity is the person's private sense of and subjective to experience of their own gender. It's how you feel in your own mind or how you think about yourself. If you think that you are a boy, a man, a woman, or gender diverse, or any other gender identity. Gender diversity, it's a person whose gender expression is different from the expected socially defined gender roles for men and women. A cisgender is a person who identifies with the sex that they are assigned at birth. So someone who was born male identifies as a male, and someone who was born female identifies as a female. And they usually use, if they're male, they use he and him, his pronouns. If they're female, they use her, hers pronouns. So we get in there to the main topic, that is transgender. So transgender, it's an umbrella term that is used to describe people whose true identity does not match their sex or the sex or the gender that went assigned at birth. So I put these pictures and I just want to spend a little bit more time about this term. In our Western society, in the US, there's no space for a third gender so far, right? We have only males and females. That's the only gender that it's accepted in society. However, in the American Indian culture, they have a third gender, which is the two spirits gender. Also, in some other cultures, they also accept another gender. Even though Mexico, it's a very conservative country, in Oaxaca, they accept the third gender and they call them muxes. So they very accepted in their society. They think that there's a blessing to have someone identified as muxe in the community. So I just provide a little bit of statistics here. 0.7% of the youth in the United States identified as a transgender between 13 and 17. That sounds like a very small portion, but if we do some math, it's like 150,000 youth that identify as transgender. So there should be more services, more that advocate for this community, and also more emphasis on how to provide better services. So some of the misconceptions about sex and about sexual orientation and gender identity is that they are part of ourselves. They both are the same, right? But surprisingly, they're not. They're not the same. They are two totally different terms. So gender identity is who you are, and sexual orientation is who you like or who you are attracted to. So as I just started to talk about a little bit of heteronormativity in binary in previous slides, I also want to spend some time here and talk about more about what heteronormativity is in binary. So heteronormativity, it's the idea that it's the norm in our society, in the culture, history, science, and religious constructs and claims. Unfortunately, like I mentioned before, in our Western society, they only tend to think that there's only two categories, male, female, men, and women. And we tend to think in that terms most of the time. We think that there is someone good, someone bad, someone tall, someone short, someone black and white thinking, and there's no space in between those two terms, right? We almost think like a polarized thinking, right? Like the North Pole, the South Pole kind of thinking. And our norms in society are based on these claims about heteronormativity. Heteronormativity means that they're based on male and female thinking, you know, and they don't leave space to the LGBTQ community, and especially the transgender community. And I have a little graphic here about the gender unicorn that explain some of the terms that I just introduced to you. Mm-hmm. So we can see that there's the gender identity, gender expression, and sex assigned at birth, and how you physically attracted to, and how emotional you are attracted to. There's more like a continuity and more like a spectrum. You know, there's not a polarized thinking or term that we can follow in. So we get into more of what it is, the topic today. So gender dysphoria, it's marked by the incongruence between one expressed gender and the one they were assigned at birth. I just want to touch a little bit more about what gender dysphoria is. In the past, in the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Health Disorders, gender dysphoria was assessed in a different way. And also in society, some professionals make the mistake that gender dysphoria, it can be only assigned when someone who has an incongruence between what the gender is and with the gender they identify and with the gender they were assigned at birth, that it has to be genitalia dysphoria. But so dysphoria, it could be more than just genitalia dysphoria, right? It can be, I will give you an example. I had hair, body hair or facial hair dysphoria when I was younger. I was very uncomfortable about growing this hair on my body. So, you know, that was my dysphoria. So there's people who also, their breasts can be their dysphoria, and not just necessary that they feel like their genitalia is what it's making them uncomfortable. So in this gender dysphoria, it's gonna it also refers to the emotional distress over this incongruency. It has to cause a emotional distress. And this emotional distress can worsen your mental health and can lead to other mental health issues or other issues such as substance use. So here is the diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders that I was talking about. This is how we are currently diagnosing clients with gender dysphoria. So like I was mentioned earlier, gender dysphoria, it's marked incongruent between one's experience or expressed gender and primary and secondary sex characteristics. So primary characteristics are gonna be uh, your genitalia area. For males it will be penis, and for women will be vagina. For children's, right? Those are the primary sex characteristics, and secondary sex characteristics are gonna be those that we all experience during adolescence, like facial hair, uh, body, body fat distribution, change of your voice, breast augmentation. So those sex characteristics. A strong desire to be rid of one's primary or secondary sex characteristics. So having that desire that it's making you uncomfortable, you want to get rid of them. Also followed by a strong desire for the primary or secondary sex characteristics of the gender of the other gender. You know, you might, if you are identified as transgender, transitioning from male to female, you probably desire some of your breast augmentation, growth, and as the clients also experience a strong desire to be of the other gender, you know, to also be socially accepted, to dress of the other gender. And also a strong desire to be treated as the other gender, as I mentioned, be recognized in society. And also there could be name changing, change of the use of personal pronouns. And lastly, a strong convictions that one has typical feelings and reactions of the other gender. So individuals or people who identified as transgender, either male, female to male or male to female, their social transition, it's gonna be use of gender affirming name, right? So they probably want to change their name so it matches more of their gender they identified. Use gender affirming pronouns. They probably want to change the pronouns to the opposite sex or more inclusive they than theirs. And gender expression congruent with the affirmed gender. So what I was talking about, maybe wearing some clothes that are more suited to the gender they identified, right? And assuming some social roles in society. And also using the restrooms that that they identify with. So the medical transition that some transgenders people go through, it's you know, hormone replacement therapy, gender affirming surgeries, and and what is this, face feminization surgery, breast removal, and bottom surgeries. And so they have to work collaborative with a team that includes the primary care physicians, endocrinologists, mental health providers, and surgeons. Something that I want to talk about some of the medical transition, it's that not everyone wants to go through all of these physical changes, right? There will be some individuals who they will feel comfortable just by wearing and be wearing clothing that with the gender they identify, being socially accepted in society, changing their names, changing their pronouns, right? That will be their there's their that they will consider the transition to be completed, right? And for some other folks, they will probably want to do some hormone therapy or surgeries. So it really depends on each individual, how how far they want to take the transition, and so it's an individual case by case scenario. Not everyone wants to go through surgery or take hormones, right? So some of the mental health challenges that we might experience, it's maladaptive coping skills patterns. Like I was mentioned before, because of the lack of information, lack of support. So there's some, and also lack of safety spaces where we can be ourselves and we can be socially accepted. There's a high risk that we can engage on some risky behaviors such as substance use, also, doing some drugs or practicing sex without protection, or also sharing needles, you know. And so also some of the mental health challenges that we go through are parental rejection. And this is very, very sad and also very harsh on transgender youth, right? Because they've been living with their parents since they were little kids in all of their lives, and suddenly they lost that support. So it's very it has a really big impact on their mental health, because those are their safety nets where they feel safe, and without having that, it's like they might lose everything, and so that's when more issues come, has a consequence of some of their parental rejection. And the stigma is a big issue in our community, right? There's people who don't accept us, people who have their own mindset, and this will also experience discrimination. Believe it or not, we are still experiencing some of provider bias. Some some professionals, some surgeons, endocrinologists. This is all new. Um, uh, this, that insurances are now paying for transgender transition. So, you know, endocrinologists, surgeons, they don't have this training in school that they how to work with the transgender community. And some of them, they they just doing it for the money and not really doing it because they want to help the community. I was one time attending a workshop and someone was saying that the um, endocrinologist was selling them that they will provide they will write a prescription for hormone therapy, but they will not it will go against their beliefs, you know. So imagine someone who is at this of doctor's office. How would they feel like uh, their care is under someone who goes against their beliefs, who goes against how they identified. So that's very bad. It's still happening. Uh, some of insurance are educating their providers, and it's a slow process that we get in there. If ever happens to you, you know, I will suggest that, uh, or your clients or your uh, loved ones, you know, file a complaint because this shouldn't happen in today's day. Uh, so also we also face access to care that address our specific needs. Um, this and here in Orange County, I believe that people who don't medical does not there's clients who have calaptima, they cannot get their hormone therapy here in Orange County. I might be wrong, but this is the last information I got from my clients. They have to travel to LA and get their hormone therapy. And if we think about it, you know, there's some clients, they have transportation issues, and you know, to have the appointments over there, that's really challenging. We'll also experience some homelessness in the community, and of course, bullying, harassment, hostile school environment, and that can lead to internalized transphobia. And that also leads to trauma, and also, of course, you know, who wants to socialize with others when we've been rejected. So we tend to isolate from others that we feel that we're not accepted, right? So here's some statistic. Um, this study conducted by Ryan and colleagues in 2009 suggests that LGBTQ youth reported high levels of family rejection during their adolescence. There was 8.4 times more likely to report having attempted suicide. They were almost 6 times more likely to report high levels of depression, 3.4 times more likely to use illegal drugs, and 3.4 times more likely to report having engaged in unprotected sex. Also, they conducted another study a year later, and they found that family acceptance helps to protect the youth from depression, suicide behaviors, and substance use, and also promotes self-esteem, social support, and overall health. So here are some mental health needs for the transgender youth. We need providers to explore exploration of gender identity, coming out in social transition, more support on that, address of general mental health and substance use issues, underlining and possible unrelated issues to gender identity, and healthy coping strategies through the adolescent period. So also some therapy, individual, family, and group therapy. It's recommended to explore their gender identity, role, and experience, enhance social and peer support, improve body image, and promote resilience. So at Radiant Health Centers, like I mentioned early in the presentation, we started a youth, a transgender and gender non-conforming youth group this coming Tuesday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. It's a virtual group. The only requisites that we ask is, this is a closed group, so the only requisites that we ask is that you register by calling my number or calling my other colleague, Marixa, at 949. So there's the numbers there. I'll also put it at the end of the presentation on the chat. Also, we ask that you identify, or the person who's gonna attend the group identified as a transgender or gender non-conforming and between ages of 12 and 17. So we'll have a lot of topics that we want to brought up in this group. So it's a continuous group that is gonna happen every Tuesday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. And it's free of cost. Everyone can join as long as they cover the requisites. And yeah, everyone is welcome. They don't have to be clients of Radiant. It's open to the youth transgender community in Orange County. We identified that there is a need, and so we are open spaces, safe spaces for the transgender youth to have a voice and express themselves in these safe spaces. Also, we offer the Spanish transgender group on Thursdays at 5 p.m. It's through Zoom as well. This is a closed group. If you know anyone, you can also refer it to us. It's free and open for the transgender community. And lastly, there's some tips for everyone. So try not to make assumptions. Be open to life beyond your own experience, right? Your own experience are your own. It can be generalized to everyone, even though you're part of the community or there's similarities. Don't confuse gender with someone's sexual orientation. Remember that they are separate part of our identities. Before you ask a question, consider if it will be one that you will answer. When in doubt, ask about the other's person pronouns. Very, very important. Never out someone without their permission. If someone it's vulnerable enough and trusts you and tells you about their uh, gender identity or how they feel, don't share with someone else. It can be very bad for this person because it takes a lot of courage for someone to uh, tell someone else how they feel in their gender orientation, uh, and so they're probably not ready to tell the rest of the world to how they feel, and it could be very distressing for them. Educate yourselves about unique needs of the transgender and gender diverse um, individuals. Tips for parents, if there are any parents here, or if you know someone or your clients, um, trust your child, allow them freedom of expression, right? Acknowledge your fears and concerns. I know this could be also a transition for parents, especially because parents want the best for their kids. So it's okay to have some fears and concerns about how society is gonna treat your kid. Are they gonna be safe? Um, how can I protect them? Right. So it's also a transition for parents and loved ones. Use the chosen names or names of and pronouns of your kid. Um, and here is really important also. Family and friends might not understand what your kid and you're going through. Seek support. You're not alone. Find a support group that specialize in this community, and that's help. If there's any therapist here, here are some tips for you. During therapy or any appointments, ask your client what name they should be called, what pronouns they should use, and how they identified, right? Very important in the beginning uh, of the first session. Allow your clients to be authentic. Sometimes that might be the only place they have to be truly themselves. Acknowledge the struggles the parents might have. Connect them to support groups or community services. Contact other specialists who might assist you if you need, right? There's always help for us to work with other disciplines or interdisciplinary approach to the client's treatment, discuss poverty blockers, hormone therapy, affirming procedures, right? If your client needs them, right? Like I mentioned, not everyone wants to go through this process, and also I will say, let your clients know that this is a whole range of options that they can have, and whenever they're ready, they can be referred, or you can also help your clients to find resources for them. And so that's the end of my presentation. This is my contact information. You can call me or text me to this professional number, or you can also email me with some questions or comments, right? If you want to refer or you want to refer yourself to the youth group, please text me your number or call me at this number, and we'll follow up with you to get you enrolled and share the link with you. Okay, I hope that this information was helpful. Thank you for your patience and your attention. I don't know if there's gonna be a Q&A, but I'm welcome to stay if there's any questions or comments.
Yeah, so there was some questions that we had in the chat.
I'm gonna stop my screen.
Oh yeah.
There's do anyone wants to? I'll put my information on the chat as well.
Okay. I can ask the questions that are in the chat, and if they want to, chime in, feel free to do so. So the first person that asked the question was Vern, and she said, so if a child identifies as trans and their parents take them to the doctor today, are they still diagnosed with GD? Who diagnoses it, an MD or a psychologist only, or both?
Yeah, good question. A psychologist will I'm sorry. The psychologist will diagnose them with the diagnose. Some doctors, they might refer you to a psychologist, right, and or a therapist that they know, and they will diagnose you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. That was a good question.
All right, thank you for answering that. So Micah asked, I'm sure Micah, if you want, you can also, want to say something, just because I know it wasn't a part of the presentation, but what they asked was, is it any different for people who don't identify as a man or a woman? But I'm not sure what they were, referring to. Oh, in regards to a diagnosis.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question I got?
Yeah. So, is it any different for people who don't identify as a man or a woman, in regards to the diagnosis when they're getting diagnosed?
Yeah, there's also non-binary. Someone can identify as non-binary, like no has been female or male. In terms of the diagnose, they have to meet some criteria based on the DSM-5, right? So when they have their appointment with their therapist, they will ask questions related to some of these primary or secondary sex change. And if that is the case, they might diagnose them with gender dysphoria. Something important that to mention about diagnose, right? So diagnosing someone helps helps for insurance, helps clients to receive care, right? So insurance manage their care. So if someone wants to get hormones, or someone wants to get any surgical procedures, they will have to be diagnosed, and that's when the diagnosis will be important and necessary for them to access to these services. Also, for some other folks, being diagnosed with gender dysphoria, it's helpful for them, so they find like a peace of mind, and an answer for all of this thoughts and concerns, questions about their identity that they might have, you know.
Okay, thank
For the
you.
question.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering that one. I don't know if anybody wants to jump in and ask more questions. I do have another question here from Micah as well. Do you know of any support groups for parents struggling to understand their trans non-binary kids?
Yeah, I believe, and maybe Karina can jump in. Uh, Sorry for putting you on the spot, but I believe the LGBTQ Center has some groups for parents. We don't have, currently we don't have, we start barely starting this group for the transgender youth. At one point, we're trying to have parents join us, but maybe not uh, not very soon. We want the youth to feel comfortable in this closed space where they can talk, and maybe later on we can invite parents. But I
Yeah,
believe the LGBTQ Center does offer.
yeah, I can go ahead and add on as well. Yeah, we have an array of support groups for youth and parents. So I'll go ahead and leave my email and you can contact me and then I can guide you to the proper person. And then M and/Jordan, you're asking about where you can go for therapy. You've sent a request for the LGBTQ Center. I will also be leaving my email. I would love to contact you with Ray in specific. They're super awesome. So for Micah and Ray, I'll go ahead and leave my email and then I'll get back to you on Monday when I'm back at work, okay? And then Kai, I believe there was a question more up in the chat from Vincenzo.
So I believe this one, right? Is there a Spanish group allowed for parents? Oh, also yeah. Well, we could start with that one and then I'll get to the.
So right now we don't have those services at Radiant. I know there's a high need for parents as well. So that's something that we can put on the table with uh, uh, managers and chief directors that, you know, there's a high need, and hopefully in the future we can also offer those groups. Like I mentioned, transition, it's not only for the youth, also for their parents as well.
All right, thank you so much. And then this will probably be the last question. It's the last one in the chat. I'm gonna read the whole message just because it gives context, but so social transition is probably one of the hardest ones as I see it myself with peers around me, finding it difficult sometimes to acknowledge people with their preferred pronouns. There is a lack of awareness. Unfortunately, schools should invest more resources in providing students with tools needed to create more acceptance around genderism. Is there anything perhaps decision-making bodies such as government institutions are still missing in order to address inequalities and the significant gap there is between straight and LGBTQ plus people?
Well, I didn't catch the question, but was there a question there or was more a comment?
So yeah, so at the end, is there anything perhaps decision-making bodies such as government institutions are still missing in order to address inequalities and the significant gap there is between straight and LGBTQ people?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, unfortunately there's a big gap in addressing these issues in the LGBTQ community. There's a lot of organizations that, you know, that they also advocating for the community. I can think of the top of my head which one are they, but also I heard that that schools need to also incorporate more services for the LGBTQ. So, if you feel like that's a high need, speak to your counselor and see how you can also we can also advocate for ourselves and see if how they can provide maybe a support group or maybe a group where they can join a safe space group. When I was in college, there were groups for the LGBTQ, there were closed groups for transgender. Yeah, so, uh, advocacy, it all started uh, with verbalizing our own needs. Yeah, so I would suggest, advocate for the community, for yourselves, and it doesn't hurt to ask.
I definitely agree. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And so I believe, right, Karina, that this room will be closing, and then we're supposed to transition into the main.
Yes, thank you so much, Kai. Thank you so much, Jorge. And then Micah, I answered your question. I am going to connect you to Alexa and connect you to the trans orientation, where you can get all of this information. Also, Vincenzo, in regards to support groups, the LGBTQ Center offers so many. We also host an array of workshops and trainings. So if you would like this to support you in that, in whichever platform that is for you, please reach out to me. I'm going to leave my email one more time. But yes, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Jorge, for all that amazing information. Thank you to all of you for being here. So now we're going to transition back into the main room where we get to watch some beautiful performances, have a raffle. So here is the link below, and I will see you all there. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you. My
everyone.
pleasure.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, so should I just leave? Is there anything else?
That'll be all for us here. You're more than welcome to join us in the main room too if you want to watch some awesome performances. But yeah, that's everything.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to meet you.
Same.
Hi, Jordan, will you be going into the main room?